How Can I Probate a Will in Jamaica? Published on November 3rd, 2024. Here's a guide to help even young family members understand the process of probating a will in Jamaica, with simple language and examples. What is a will and probate? A will is like a set of instructions a person writes down before they pass away, explaining who should get their things, like their house, money, or special belongings. Probate is the official process of following those instructions in the will. This job is done by someone called the executor, who is chosen by the person who wrote the will. The executor works with the court to make sure all debts are paid and each person listed in the will, called a beneficiary, gets what they're supposed to. Steps to probate a will in Jamaica. Here are the steps the executor and lawyer will follow, with examples to make it easy to understand. Step 1. Contact a lawyer. The first thing the executor should do is find a lawyer. Probating a will involves filling out lots of forms and understanding certain rules. A lawyer will know exactly what to do. Example: if grandma left a house and some savings to her family, the executor, maybe an aunt or uncle, would ask a lawyer for help. The lawyer will explain the steps and make sure everything is done properly. Step 2. Check if the will is valid. The lawyer will check the will to make sure it's legal and hasn't been changed or replaced by another will. If there's a problem, the lawyer will explain what to do next. Example: imagine grandma had an old will, then made a new one later. The lawyer will make sure the new will is the one used for probate, not the old one. Step 3. Gather the testator's assets. The executor needs to find all the things mentioned in the will. This can include a house, car, bank accounts, and even valuable items like jewelry. These are called assets. Example: if grandma left a house, a car, and some money in the bank, the executor would make a list of these items. They would check that everything mentioned in the will is still there and that grandma owned it. Step 4. Value the estate. The executor and lawyer need to know the value of everything in the estate, all the assets put together. Here's an example. House, JMD 10,000. Car, JMD 500,000. Bank account, JMD 2,000. Total value of estate, JMD 500,000. This total amount is important for calculating any taxes and fees that need to be paid. Step 5. List any debts. If the person who wrote the will, the testator, had any debts, these have to be paid first. Common debts might include a car loan, credit card bills, or money owed on a house. Example: let's say grandma still owed money on her car. The executor would check and make a list of all her debts, like this. Car loan, JMD 500,000. Credit card, JMD 100,000. Total debt, 600,000. Step 6. Calculate funeral costs. Funeral expenses can also be paid out of the estate. For example, if the total estate value is JMD 500,000 and the funeral costs JMD 500,000, then total estate value JMD 500,000, funeral costs JMD 500,000, remaining value JMD 13,000. The remaining value, JMD 13,000, is what's left after paying for the funeral. Step 7. Apply for the grant of probate. The lawyer will help the executor apply for a grant of probate. This document is like a permission slip from the court, allowing the executor to manage the estate and follow the instructions in the will. The lawyer will prepare and submit several documents. Oath of executor. The executor's promise to do their job honestly. Draft grant of probate certificate, proof that the testator has passed. Certified copy of the will. The executor will also need the original death certificate, the original will ID like TRN or passport, a list of assets and debts with supporting documents, e.g. bank statements, bills, insurance policies. Step 8. Pay death duties. In Jamaica, the government charges a tax called death duties. This tax must be paid before the beneficiaries can receive their inheritance. The lawyer will send paperwork to the stamp office where they'll calculate the death duties based on the estate's value. Step 9. Settle debts. With the grant of probate, the executor can now use the testator's money to pay off any remaining debts. They'll also pay any final costs like lawyer fees and executor fees. Example, if grandma had some money in the bank, the executor would use that money to pay off her credit card debt and any other bills. Step 10. Distribute the assets. Finally, once all debts, taxes, and fees are paid, the executor can give out the remaining items and money to the people named in the will, the beneficiaries. Example, if the will says grandma's house goes to her daughter and her car goes to her grandson, the executor will transfer the ownership of the house and car to them officially. Additional points. Supporting documents. After applying for the grant of probate, the executor will get a probate case number and a checklist of other documents needed, like the administration oath, supporting affidavit, and schedule of assets. Final checks. Before receiving the grant of probate, the lawyer will make sure there aren't any other claims on the estate, like another will or debts. Joint tenants or life tenants. If the deceased owned property with someone else, extra steps may be needed to update the property records. Probating a will may take several months, but it's important to follow each step carefully to respect the wishes of the person who passed away and ensure everything is handled fairly. If you have questions, your lawyer is there to help guide you.